Sometimes you have to do that because the easy challenge is one you'll get lazy with. The big challenge gets you hungry.
Oh, how the tables turn.
That's a heavy topic, and we need to focus on that. If not for yourself, then do it for your children.
Black book is in
Hey,
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And our team since 2020 has reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we are broadcasting live March 9th with International Women's Day. And it's International Women's Day every day, by the way. Just want to put that out there. But you are watching Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real unfiltered conversations about life, culture, and community. And usually I have Kofi Sadat and Kofi Morris with me on this conversation. I know that Kofi Sadat won't be with us tonight because him and along with his beautiful partner are doing a comedy show tonight. They can't make it, and Kofi Morris was at that comedy show. And he texted me about 10-15 minutes ago saying he's going to reach by 5 minutes after the hour. We'll see. But you know what? The show goes on. The show goes on. I want to say thank you for everyone who's supporting live on the replay with the broadcast. We appreciate you and we love it. And this is the first day of the, I guess, spring forward, fall back. And this morning I was so mentally drunk, basically, because my clock was off this morning. I was just like, not there, and I was a little bit couldn't figure it out. Eventually I did get things straight because I had 2 shows to do today and had some stuff to do to help assist some other men, so I'm on it now. But got up this morning and said, wow, like, what time is it? And still, okay, believe it or not, my watch is still showing the wrong time. It's an hour behind, and I've got to fix it. So people here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let's see, I'll put it up here. My watch is saying it's you can't. There we go. Like 4 minutes after 7, which is not correct. It is 3 or 4 minutes after 8 o'clock Eastern time. So I have to figure out if anyone has any suggestions how you can get a Garmin watch to tell the right time. Please send them in. Please send them in. But in Toronto, where we're based here, I would say the weather is gradually getting better. This winter has been too long. January and February took forever to finish. Last year, most people told me 2024 went by in a flash. Yeah, well, 2025 is slow. The winter weather's been ugh. But today we had some nice sunny weather getting there. It was like 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. I actually saw a brother yet today who was wearing shorts. I go, really? I'm not there yet. Sorry, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. No shorts for me. That's easy. And we got someone in here. Black Nerd Talks. Good to have you here. The amount of shoveling I've had to do this year alone. Right? And Black Nerd Talks, a pleasure to meet you last Friday at the Iron Sharpens Irons Black Mental Health for Men event. It was great to finally meet you and great to share with you. And hopefully we can continue the conversation. But the amount of shoveling, for people that don't know, I judge a winter in Toronto on how much you have to shovel. Now, up until the last 2 years, up until this year, I don't think I shoveled my driveway. The shovel hardly went out, like 3 or 4 times. Last month alone, way too much. Actually, two weeks last month, that was out of bounds. But I get smart. I have a battery-operated snowblower. Thank you very much. That, an investment, bought it years ago, didn't have to use it intensely till this year, but I'm telling you, Get one and battery operated. Don't have to worry about a cord, or my next door neighbors have these big gash machines. I'm not there. I'm not going to spend like $500 on a snowblower. Not my vibe. Not my vibe to do that. But I will tell you, my next door neighbor who has a snowblower, we had a snowstorm, and then I was overnight, and I got up the next morning, and I didn't want to open the drapes to look outside because I go, oh my gosh, how much I'm going to have to shovel. Check it out. Next door neighbor did the driveway for me. Hello. So I am all over that vibe. That's why it's good to have good neighbors. Whether you're in a condo, an apartment, or a house, you never know when they're going to need you. And you never know when you're going to need them. So 100%. Okay. We are going to do a short little break. And then we've got a new friend for the Black Men Can Talk family, though it's a gentleman. Him and I met a long time ago. He remembered me. I don't know. I have to be honest. I don't remember a lot these days with this shiny head. Well, once in a while, he remembered me. Black Nerd Talk says, ever since moving from Montreal to Toronto in 2015, I never shoveled. But my first winter getting a house this year was very humbling. I wish my neighbors were that nice. Oh, give it time. Give it time. We'll see. Just give it time. No problem. But yeah, Montreal's a whole different language when it comes to snow. There's many a time I visited Montreal in the winter. It was concrete in Toronto. Well, by the time I got to Kingston, snow. And by the time I got to Montreal, worse. That's a whole other conversation itself. All right, we're going to go for a quick break, 30 seconds, and we'll back up with a new friend for the Black Men Can Talk family. So we'll see you in about 30 seconds. Good morning. It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show.
My name is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network.
It's Carolyn Nicole time. She is here to make us better.
In 15 minutes, you could accomplish so much for your health. This is where we have our morals, our values, our decision making.
I don't know if Wayne Harris is still here because he's probably commenting, but I got to tell Wayne about that because he'll go, what? All right, you can catch out that conversation called The Morning Vibe with myself and my co-host, Ryan O'Neill Knight, Monday and Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And that's a slice of what you get on The Morning Vibe. All right, let's get to some house stuff, and then we get into our conversation. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, please like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm involved with, email me dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. And finally, join the Black Men Can Talk Discord group. Email me again, dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. Well, see, we're getting close. Do you think Kofi's going to make it till 10 after the hour? I don't think so. But when he comes in, make sure you rib and say, Kofi, how come you're late? All right. So new friend coming up on the show today. S-Quire Johnson is a community influencer, has been developing and implementing social justice focused programs and initiatives with community agencies for profit businesses and educational institutions. Since 2012, he is the founder and co-executive director of ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative, a family service initiative that supports African Canadian Black ACB children, families, and communities by providing resources, mentoring services, and advocacy supports for fathers who often feel marginalized and unsupported. He's also a digital media creator, and that brought his passion for highlighting stories of social and cultural identity to his work for over 10 years. As a videographer and video editor, he has produced content for such cultural staples as Caribbean Vibrations TV, TD Jerk Festival Toronto, and the Caribbean Tales Film Festival. So this man he doesn't stay quiet. You don't think? Well, let's bring up Brother Kofi is here. Okay, hold on. Okay. I'm going to bring S-Quire first, and we're going to bring Brother Kofi on. Mr. Johnson, how art thou?
I'm doing well. Now, just as a clarification, Dr. Vibe, the pronunciation is Esquire, like the magazine.
Excuse me.
Just want to make sure that, the branding is the branding is the branding.
Hold on. Why are you identifying yourself with a non-melanated publication? Come on now.
It's not non-melanated. It's not a matter. So
I'm just playing.
I know.
Playing with you.
I feel you. How's it going, man? How's things on your end?
I am blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, solution for someone's problem, Blackalicious.
Blackalicious. Okay, I need to put that inside my lexicon just now. I don't think I've heard that one just yet. Blackalicious is going to have to go inside my vocabulary. Okay.
Yeah, I am Blackalicious, but it's really good to have you on. It was good seeing you last Friday. I hail up to Troy Crossfield and his team. I could only spend a little bit of time there, but it was positive, effective time.
Oh, yeah. Anytime that we have the opportunity as Black men to be able to truly connect on a levels is always encouraging. So once I got the heads up from the Mandem that this was actually a thing, and knowing in terms of that it was connected with Troy, knowing the amount of work that he's done within community, I was definitely for it. It was a very, very good vibe, so we say.
All right. Well, he made it before 10 minutes after the hour, so we got to bring him up.
Do we?
Kofi.
Peace and blessings, brothers. Good to see you guys. Good to connect on the Black Man Camp podcast. For all those that are tuning in, looking forward to a lively session.
Good. What have you been up to today?
Oh man, well, literally, I'm just coming from the actual comedy show that was run by Bish. Isn't She Funny? NOJ is the host of a ongoing comedy series. So Bish Funny is the Instagram, and we just came from there, which was at the comedy bar off of Danforth. So I'm flying from the other side of the city to come to.
Did you get to see the young comedian that talks about mental health?
I did. I think I missed that particular comedian. Yeah. But the family definitely was like raving about the beginning, of the show, of course. And again, like, this topic is huge because we don't talk about it a lot in terms of this connection, but humor and wellness, like the ability to connect those two, is significant, especially for us as African people and Caribbean people, because guess what? We find ways to laugh at a lot of the hardships, the challenges and struggles of our lives. That's what keeps us going. I think it's a big part of like our lifeblood. So I think it's blessed to be part of that, initiative, kind of culminating Black Mental Health Week this way with that particular event, and then coming into today's conversation, and just delving into what it looks like relative to fatherhood. And it's so funny because I just saw S-Quire, a couple of days ago at the event. At Troy's event, for ISI, Iron Sharpens Iron. So just looking forward to kind of delving into a little bit what that experience was for you. Again, blessed to connect again in this space, and as we continue to utilize these digital spaces to support men, Black fathers. It's so important that we use these platforms to our benefit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of delving a little bit more deeper.
Okay, well, I'll kick off the conversation. Esquire, can you tell us about your journey and what inspired you to co-found the ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative?
So to circle back, and Kofi actually knows a bit of the history as well, it came from when I first became a father back in 2006. And even though I was working for an Ontario Early Years Center like years before, and knowing that there were these family resource programs that were available, it was interesting when I first became a father and looking for these resources for myself to say, okay, I need to be prepared. Firstborn is coming. Where do I need to go? I want to be able to sign up for these parenting programs. And there was a distancing that I had experienced when it came to engaging with facilitators and community members about this work. And at the same time, not necessarily seeing the representation of fathers, much less Black fathers, within these particular spaces. I was fortunate to find out about what was previously known as Younger Potential Fathers back in the day. And I just dived into a lot of the parenting programs and just enveloped myself to know, wait, there's like this core group of Black men that are proud of being active and involved in the lives of their kids. And I wanted to actually soak all of that in From that time, I became certified to facilitate a number of different parenting programs that got recognized by child welfare agencies and other educational institutions, to the point where in around 2017 to 2019, when I was trying to figure out things on the digital media side of things and just say, you know what, let's just try to figure out what that pivot would look like, a lot of the dads that I worked with when I was facilitating parenting programs still wanted to stay connected and engage with me about, again, what's been happening with their kids, what co-parenting looked like. And the challenge that we found was that accessibility was the biggest issue. That while we were doing our thing on the West End, a lot of the men that we connected to were either further east in Durham region, for example, and being able to find transport at like a low income is not the easiest. So we had originally developed the ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative in order to fill that gap, to allow for there to be modularity when it came to family service opportunities and mentoring for young Black men, and just for different Black men of different walks of life who wanted to be able to be at their best when it came to fatherhood. We had the opportunity, and we were blessed to receive funding from the province of Ontario through the Ontario Trillium Foundation to pilot this particular work. And we had been fortunate to work with hundreds of fathers across Ontario to be able to strengthen their supports and their engagements with their families, and also understand what their resources are available to them when it came to advocating for their kids. And over time, what we also realized was that we were having more and more conversations with service providers because of the fact that we would usually be seen as the intermediaries, whether it is connecting around parenting plans for dads and so on. And there was an increase in the desire to learn how to best engage with fathers from that organizational standpoint, where you have community health centers that are trying to figure out how come Black men are apprehensive when it comes to accessing our resources when we know for a fact that we're trying to make that space available to them. So we had actually pivoted to try to do more systems integration, be able to do more professional development opportunities for organizations as well, while we're still mentoring fathers along the way. So that way we can try to bridge that gap and make sure that our kids are getting the best versions of ourselves, and also strengthening the resources that are available for Black families. So that's like the long and short in terms of how ANKOBEA as an organization came to be, and really just grounding the work that I needed when I first became a father.
Right. Brother Kofi, you want to jump in? I've got lots of conversation pieces. You tell me when you want to jump in.
100%. No, I mean, you know, one of the things that really struck, and I'm sure that people that are listening right now, especially the fathers, right, are like, wow, like for those that are not familiar, right, with the work, the Black Fathers Initiative, and recognizing that this is out there, like this is available. Once again, like with the work initially with Young Potential Fathers, now Ujima House, again, the thing is always, really? Like this exists? I don't even know this exists. So my thing is like, one of the things was like, why is it, you know, that these types of resources are scarce? Why do you think this is not a focus, knowing that there's two sides to parenting? There's a mother and a father, and there's various, you know, mothers initiatives and initiatives for women. Why do you think that there's like still this gap, you know, in terms of service delivery and community for fathers, Black fathers?
I appreciate that question, because I have a different perspective when it comes to the idea of scarcity when it comes to supports for Black men and Black fathers specifically. What I've learned over time, like even just within the last 10 years alone, is just within Toronto, there are a significant number of initiatives and organizations that are doing very strong work when it comes to supporting Black fathers. We just mentioned Younger Potential Fathers, who have now transitioned into Ujima fathering centers. You end up having out of the East End Black Daddies Club, the stuff that Brandon Hayes been doing for the longest time. You even see in terms of the Lions Circle, in terms of the work that they've been doing for a good amount of time as well. And also we mentioned Troy at the same time with regards to Iron Sharpens Iron. And what I've found, and what we found within like the research studies that we've done over the years, is that these initiatives and these projects and these programs, they've been happening significantly in order to actually bridge that gap for Black men and Black fathers. The challenge comes in when it comes to the awareness around these initiatives, and also to understand the unique skill sets that each of them ultimately have. In a lot of cases, what also comes up as a barrier is, what a lot of nonprofit organizations find, is sustainable funding, a sustainable revenue stream, in order to make sure that there can be a thriving within that work ultimately. If I'm going to be honest, right now, the ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative is more of a passion project than anything else. We were fortunate to receive funding for the first 3 years, and everything else, because of the fact that the nature of grants that go to organizations like ours has been transitioned into stuff that's more project-based. There's less and less opportunity for there to be core funding available for staff to continue this particular work. So what we end up seeing is that influencers like myself, influencers like even connecting with regards to Sadat back in the day as well, we would end up having to say that we would end up putting the Fathers Project not necessarily on the back burner, but try to figure out how we are going to make sure that ends are meeting. And then once we actually are able to settle ourselves, we can make sure that the work can continue when the time comes. So I feel like once we get to the point where we can normalize active and engaged fathering within the Black community from a funding standpoint, we'll be able to see that we are not as siloed as we think. It's just a matter of figuring out, even when we use the example of iron sharpens iron, there were a lot of very, very prominent Black men that have been doing this particular work for the longest time. Dr. Vibe's an example. Yourself, Kofi's been an example as well. And we know that we're all there, but it's a matter of saying, what can this network of supports ultimately do to make sure that the awareness around our individual skill sets can be amplified as well?
Okay. Number of things I can go down road. I'll see where my intuition goes. Want to say the Black Nerd Talk says that's funny. So S-Quire's experiences of being a single Black father is very similar to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, who does a lot of scholarly work for Black men in the U.S. All right. I don't know if I want to talk about this now or talk about it later. I'll parking lot it, because no, I'll bring it up now. What, and I don't know, maybe I'm making the wrong thought process here. I don't see these groups working together. And to me, my thought process is, if you could get together, you have more voice, and when you're presenting for funding streams, you have more numbers of
and more
impact
leverage.
And more leverage. That's to me has always been a big challenge. All these pockets, and you said the word silo, and to me that, and from where I sit and what I hear from other sides of the fence, well, I wish they could just, they should just all get together and present something together so they could have a bigger number of individuals, fathers and their families impacted. Am I out of step sharing that?
No, not at all. I also feel like it's the same way as within the corporate world. You're also dealing with different personalities. So it's a matter of being able to figure out, how do you appeal to that other initiative to let them know that there is a benefit in terms of collaborating, in terms of showing partnership. The reality is, funders, stakeholders, donors, they want to see collective work and responsibility within these particular initiatives. They're more willing to be able to say, if there is a level of wraparound support that's going to last for hours, like that's going to be lasting for a year, for example, we could get behind that if it's a group of organizations that's doing similar work or doing like stuff within different intersections of the work. It's a matter of being able to see the appeal. What I feel has been a challenge over the years, however, is because of the way that the granting system and the funding system is actually encouraged, for lack of a better word, the siloing of these organizations too, where only one organization in some cases can be the only one to actually push for that. And when you end up seeing now that there has been a bit of a shift to say that you want to be able to do collective professional development when it comes to these organizations, there's a hesitation to be able to say, do I really want to work with this initiative, or am I going to get the rug pulled from under me? So I feel that there needs to be, along with what you're saying, Dr. Vibe, there needs to be a lot of unlearning with the way that we approach funding towards this work, and also to allow for there an opportunity to say it doesn't need to be a competition between each other. We understand that there are different strengths that we have and different skill sets. And it's a matter of us being able to recognize that. It's the same way with any type of advocacy and activism that we do within our community. There's different levels to activism, and they all have to work concurrently in order for there to be that transformative change that we want to see. So once we're able to better understand what that can look like for us, we'll have that better opportunity to take away from that silo effect that we've been experiencing for so long.
Okay. So just doing a reset here on Black Men Can Talk, we're talking with S-Quire Johnson, co-founder and executive director of the ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative. And what we're going to do for those who are watching live or on the replay, we'll actually put up what their website looks like, and also it's in the comment section on most of the platforms that you're watching this live or on the replay. But also, if you do want to get in contact with them, there's the website address on your screen, and also the email address for our friends. So just wanted to make sure that everyone sees what's going on here. Kofi Morris, you want to continue? Like I said, I got a pile of things to go at with this young gentleman.
100%. Now, getting back to the whole piece around fatherhood, I remember as a young father, and speaking about this piece around what it looks like fathering when you're in spaces where you may be by yourself with your children, meaning that you're at the park, and you're with your children. And I used to get this thing all the time. People would be like, oh, where's mom? Like, where's the mom? Right? And it was always this question of like, something's missing, that you can't just be at the park with your child. Maybe mom's at work, mom's at school, which she was, right? But there was this gap, and I used to always observe it and be like, why is that always a question? And there's an assumption that, so I'm wondering, what are some of your early experiences, like being a father, being an involved father, an engaged father, in community, in the public, and like, what was your responses to some of those things? And did you find that you were almost educating people at times?
I have two approaches to this. So first, when I first became a dad, yes, those experiences, those park experiences were common. What would usually happen is that there would be rounds of applause or like affirmation that would be coming from strangers to say, it's such a good thing that you're here with your child, that your presence and everything. And it's so good that you're able to actually play up and everything. And it boggled my mind in a lot of cases, because to me, this was a normal thing. This was a regular thing that happens within our community. The amount of fathers, the amount of uncles that I've been around, the amount of people within community that are Black men that have shown up regularly for their kids is a normal thing. However, when you look at it from the social perspective, the narrative that comes around is in terms of the idea around the absentee Black father. And that's the narrative that usually permeates. Just like with like a lot of negative news that usually comes out, that's usually what ultimately approaches. And admittedly, there would be a bit of offense that I would take from it, because there's that assumption that you don't feel that I actually love my kids enough in order to be present for them, that there has to be an obligation. And then I realized that there was those times in which there would have to be those education points, those calling ins that needed to happen with people on the road. And even more so within like the community development work and the facilitation work that I would do, where even still with some Black men that I would be mentoring, that being able to talk about normalizing fathering for them is also a challenge, because in their experiences, it's not what they'd seen, that they hadn't within their own experiences seen those positive, that positive male influence within their lives. So there does have to be, in a lot of cases, an unlearning of that destigmatizing that I found. And it's also something that's intergenerational too. I will never forget, there was a time when I was mentoring some middle school students a few years back in the Jane and Finch area. I was doing a workshop on podcasting and so on. And they wanted to talk about their lived experience living in the Jane and Finch area, 2 black boys, 2 black girls. And they were excited. The black girls were excited to talk about the inspiration and the motivation that they received from the moms, from the aunties, from the community moms, from the community aunties that they had, that would connect them to educational resources, that would connect them to employment resources, make sure that there were positive examples of black women that were successful, so that way they knew that path to what their success can ultimately look like. And I asked the question to them, and again, this is like middle school, like grade 6 to grade 8, where I asked that, okay, do you feel that that approach would be beneficial for black boys that are around your age? And this came from the little girls inside that room. They just said all the boys need to do is fix up. They don't pay attention. They need to stop like going on their video games. They need to stop playing sports and everything like that and want to actually do it. So it's a matter of being able to unlearn what those untrue social norms are when it comes to black men and black boys that really actually plays a negative factor with regards to what fathering looks like within our community. And in a lot of cases, I'm fortunate to see, once those examples and that representation is there, there is like a heightened energy. There's a pep and a step from a black man that wants to be able to step up and be their own example for their kids and for their families.
Huge. Thank
Good stuff. Good stuff. We're going to catch up on some comments here. Frequency Event Promotions, welcome as always. Thanks for being here. Also, says Kofi, what's good? Long time no see. Black Nerd Talk says, agreed with Dr. Vibes. We're operating in silos and it prevents us from getting significant headway. Right way home. Blessings, gentlemen. Thanks for holding. He says, thanks for holding it down. No problem. He goes, he's listening in. Absolutely. We're glad that you're listening in right way home. All right. And then we've got Black Nerd Talks says, pull up yourself by the bootstraps, black men.
That part. And that's I think the biggest stigma that's placed on black men, that the expectation is that we are supposed to figure it out. And that in general, in terms of the way that men are supposed to be approaching things, when it comes to emotional intelligence and so on, it's not something that's necessarily encouraged, but it's a matter of saying that we need to be more solutions focused. When the reality is, when you're able to show the examples of what healthy co-parenting can look like for black men, what healthy engagement with your kids can ultimately look like, there's a desire that we ultimately have to be that example, to be all of those things to our kids. When the stereotype and the stigma is that you need to just fix up yourself, figure out what job that you're going to make sure that you make that money and everything will be good as gold. When the reality is, you, just as much as you want for your kids to know all of you, your kids want to be able to know who you are. You want to be able to show that to your kids as well. But if that barrier around like that emotional intelligence is not nurtured, or it's not shown as far as healthy examples, how do you expect for that to change? So really within the work that we do is, again, trying to combat what those stigmas are and how problematic terms like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps are for black men, and how discouraging it can be, especially when you're trying to seek out the solutions in order to advocate for your children and for your families in different ways from what you might have been raised around.
All right. What does ANKOBEA mean, and how does it reflect the mission of the organization?
Okay, so ANKOBEA is an acronym that stands for Accessing Necessary Knowledge on Becoming Elevated Africans. So, going a little bit back into the history, we had ultimately inherited the essence of this organization that was originally based on being able to provide resources and educational opportunities for the Black community from that educational standpoint. That's within the era of being able to actually do the each one teach one type of thing outside of what the educational institutions would be able to provide, or the lack of that culturally specific Black-centered education. So when we had actually developed the Fatherhood Initiative, we had actually received the blessing from the developer of ANKOBEA to be able to further this specifically for African, Caribbean, and Black men. Doesn't mean that it's an exclusive initiative, however. It's a matter of being able to say a lot of the work that we do is Afrocentric, it is culturally specific, but it's also, in a lot of ways that we explain it, it's also life lessons for fathers and families. So the same way as when you end up putting opportunities and making opportunities happen for Black people and how it benefits everybody, this is the approach that we actually take when we're able to advocate for ourselves in educational institutions, with child welfare agencies, with community health centers. You end up seeing that it enhances every other community that utilizes those resources. We know for a fact where our niche is. We want to make sure that we actually build ourselves up as subject matter experts within what we've been proficient in. And we know for a fact that doing that will only expand and actually broaden the impact of transformative change within our families too.
Nice. Right Way Home says, pull up that definition, S-Quire. Pull up that definition. Love that. I'm going to make a suggestion. You should put that on the website.
Okay. Appreciate that heads up.
Because that's defining who you are. Because we go, okay, where did that get that? And they can't find. That's one of the reasons why I asked that question, because I didn't know what it meant.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. And the thing about it is, for a good while, we had done that intentionally because of the fact that, again, branding is always a thing, and it always asks the question. So yes, there is that benefit there, and for sure that's something that I could actually take back with the team and the board. But it was always something that became a conversation starter when we actually connected with the institutions that we've been working with. And once they actually were hearing like the explanation that I gave, for example, they were able to say, okay, it makes sense within this space, and it's not something that's glossed over like when you see people giving business cards without context, you know?
Right. I want to ask, what are some of the key challenges African, Caribbean, Black fathers face in today's society from your lens?
That is how much time you got.
I told you before we started, I got time.
No, I appreciate you for that. Some of the biggest challenges, I'll try to do my best to nail it down to maybe 2 or 3. I feel like understanding the representation that already exists within our community around the positive Black men and Black fathers that are already within our communities, being able to recognize them and honor them is a big factor. There's a lot of times where there would be this idolizing of Black inspirational folks who have since long passed. So the same way that you would see the usual staples of the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, the Rosa Parks, and so on, that have done phenomenal work for our community and for the world in general, they're usually seen as the main stalwarts. Now, when you end up speaking to a Black man in 2025 that is going through this experience for the first time, there may not necessarily be that connection to that influencer from during the civil rights movement that happened decades ago. So I feel like a part of the challenge is being able to see what that representation is for them in modern times, and realizing that these people are just as accessible as the ones that are right next door to you. So in terms of that representation, I feel like the challenge is also, another challenge that comes up is the social stigma around fatherhood as a whole. If we're going to be honest, fatherhood, as much as fathering has been a thing since time immemorial, it's still seen by society as a niche project. So you don't see that, again, there are people that are really seeking out to be able to talk about the rights of Black fathers, or being able to fund initiatives and organizations that actually make fathering the focus with regards to those organizations. Or if it is, it's for a limited time only, that type of circumstance. So being able to see like that regular representation of organizations that are doing this work is also a big challenge that comes into play. And then we get into talking about a lot of the elements that come through what Canada's described as the social determinants of health and health inequities. When we talk about what fathering looks like, as a Black man, when you end up asking the question, how can I be expected to provide the best quality of life for my kids when I'm struggling to hold down a job, when I'm not able to actually be employed, when my education is not the greatest, so I can't really speak to the teachers at my school, when there's an issue with regards to family, for example, when I'm still trying to figure out how to be able to keep the roof over our heads. And in a lot of cases, because all of this is happening all at once, it makes those soft skills and that connection with our kids much more challenging, because there's a mission in front of us that we need to address. And we've been socially conditioned as Black men to say we need to solve that problem, forget the emotions, get the job done. And that's the only love language that you're able to give to your kids, is to provide. So I feel like that challenge of overcoming what that stigma is and being able to articulate that these are also important areas that I need to have addressed. And this is also what's been holding me back from being able to have that significant connection that I want with my kids, or to foster a healthy co-parenting relationship. Those usually are seen as barriers with regards to what fathers in general and Black fathers experience in terms of what that ultimately looks like. Another significant challenge that comes into play is when there is when there's a lack of understanding of culture when it comes to our community as well. And it's misinterpreted, and it's interpreted as something that is negative. So when you're a Black father and you're working with a family resource program, a child welfare agency, and by all intents and purposes, we can be very excitable and we are very passionate people. So even without it being a thing or aggressive or anything like that, we will usually raise our voice. We will be able to actually be direct in the way that we speak. And that directness, that assertiveness that we usually have, that excitement that we have when it comes to something positive or negative that's around our kids, is usually seen as a negative when it comes to a service provider. And that father is usually written off as ungovernable, as somebody that is challenging, as someone that has anger management issues. Whereas there isn't that desire to be able to see, okay, what is the underlying theme that's causing this passion that's coming from this father? And what is it that the child needs in order to make sure that everything is actually being met? What is it that the dad wants to make sure is there, whether it's the safety or the well-being of the child that it needs to be done? It's written off as saying, well, you know what, he's got to be able to understand how to talk to us before we're able to support him. So I feel like that also, in terms of a lack of understanding the cultural nuances, or the willingness to be able to acknowledge the cultural nuances that comes from our wide variety of communities, post of very huge challenges with regards to Black fathers, like living up to that desire to be active and involved in the lives of their kids and their families.
Nice. Before I kick it back to you, Kofi, two things. If you're watching this live on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel, we are running a poll saying, do you feel that Black fathers are important to the future of the Black family? And everyone who has answered so far has said yes. So that's a good thing. And then the other thing, Black Nerd Talk says, I would also say we as a society don't value the fathers in terms of the emotional labor they provide to their kids and mothers of their children. Look how we underplay Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Kofi, you want to come back?
Yeah, so we're gonna do a little game. We're gonna play a little game. Right? It's very, very simple. Very simple. Since Black fathers, it's oftentimes sometimes we bring that light part to the parenting. You know what I'm saying? The games and the fun. So I'm gonna say a word, and you have one word to respond to each word, whatever comes to your mind.
Okay,
First word that comes to your mind as I say the word.
Okay.
Ready?
All right.
All right. So I'm gonna start kind of light.
All right.
Melanated fatherhood.
Melanated fatherhood. Necessary.
Brotherhood.
Love.
Family court.
Trigger.
Black love and relationships.
Foundational.
Preschool.
Joy.
Diapers.
Diapers. Oh, God have mercy. Diapers. Messy.
Okay. Black wealth.
Aspirational.
Fathering stereotypes.
Overcome.
Single fathers.
Seen.
The future of fatherhood.
Brilliant.
Beautiful. Thank you for playing our little game, brother. Thank you for playing our game.
No, that actually had me on my toes right there. I'm just like, I appreciate those times to be able to reflect. And it's something, even how we were talking earlier about like that emotional intelligence, even normalizing stuff like that, to be able to actually play games like this between ourselves as Black men, there needs to be more encouragement around that, to be able to take things as lightly as possible. And that's something even outside of the work that I do, like I encourage that with like the guys that are inside my friend circle, just to be able to say like, not every single conversation, yes, the hard conversations around what your relationship looks like, what your parenting situation looks like are there. At the same time, I always want to make sure to encourage, what are actually those points of joy that you're able to see with your child? What is it that you see that is brilliant and bright with regards to a co-parenting experience that you've had, and to allow for that to be something that's sustainable? It's almost like the same way, like I remember distinctly, there was a movie back in the day, Collateral, with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise. I became very enamored with Jamie Foxx's character, where he, for himself, was a dreamer, but it was something where, because of his experience, he was a cab driver within that time, and it always was something that was holding him back. And as much as he knew that he didn't have everything together, he put together this scenario anytime people asked about him, in which he showed himself as aspirational, that the taxi rides and everything like that were only a temporary thing. He would bring down his visor, and it would actually show a postcard of a home or of an island that he is actually aspiring to, because he wants to be this business person. He wants to be like this very successful person in his own eyes. So being able to see what that ultimately looks like, and being able to understand the joy that comes through just that 5 seconds of looking at that postcard, I truly encourage for us within our community as Black men to make sure that we can keep those light moments as well, and it be okay to allow ourselves those light moments too, because out there is rough. And if we can't give ourselves that grace to be able to breathe within that process, we're going to lose ourselves.
Huge. And that ties right back into, this week's theme in terms of Black Mental Health Week. And I love to hear from even some of the listeners in terms of, were you able to participate this week in Black Mental Health Week? Was there anything that you did to honor that? And what are some things that Black fathers can do, right, to basically help to balance out their mental health? What are some of the things that you've come across? What are some of the things that you find that have worked for you, just in terms of managing some of that, what you just mentioned in terms of like the lightness, being able to bring that peace? What are some things that have kind of worked for you? And it's for everybody, right, Dr. For everybody, and some of our listeners. What are some of the things that have really been helpful? And that's the one question. I'll just add one quick thing about the one word game that we just did. It was a tool that I used to use in working with young Black men, that can also be extended specifically also to fathers. When you mention some of these words, because you mentioned one of your responses was triggering, right? And that was family court, and the whole connection between those things. Being able to actually utilize some of these strategies when you meet with fathers, and asking that question, what comes to mind when you hear these words?
Exactly.
And one word, you'll find you can actually explore that after you do this kind of game with them, to determine where they're at. And then 3 months, 6 months, whatever down the line, you can ask the same question with some of the same words and see what some of the responses are. And again, because the work that we're doing, it helps to kind of shift some of the mindsets with the fathers when they're getting the support that they need. But going back to this piece around, mental health and wellness, and some of the things that actually have helped, yourself, and actually have you found that have helped other fathers?
So I want to go back to the first question in terms of the iron sharpens iron, in terms of that experience. I was fortunate to be invited by Yao Togobo from the city of Toronto in order to take part inside this conference. Big up Yao. He's big man. He's big man around this city, eh? So I knew about the work that Troy was doing, and it was encouraging for me to see the desire that Black men within the space had, not only with regards to sharing space with other like-minded Black men around this whole concept of mental health, at the same time making space for us to be able to share our truths in terms of the challenges that we have simply for existing, and at the same time being expected to thrive within that existence while trying to figure out what mental health ultimately looks like for ourselves and being able to define that for ourselves, right? And it was also encouraging to see that there were Black women that were inside the space that were in that space of encouragement. In a lot of cases, and you would see this in a lot of circumstances where there are Black women's conferences that are usually promoted a lot, and there's this sense of sisterhood that comes within that. So to see that there was that encouragement that Black women inside the space had to say, this is for you. We want to be able to support you within developing this sense of brotherhood within this space, to know for a fact that this isn't something that is a singular effort, you know, to know that that was also encouraging as well. I feel in a lot of ways there was a healing that came from the testimonies that actually came up, from the knowledge sharing that came around, that there didn't feel like there was a sense of hierarchy with regards to that sense of engagement. It was truly a sense of community that came out of that conference that I feel needs to be something that's normalized and not just within a once a year type of thing. And it's always something that organizations like ours want to be able to encourage, that it may not be at that biggest scale and we may not have the most accessibility to these opportunities and to be able to attend these events, but the spirit of that can be something that is continued. So it motivated even more within the work that we're trying to do to be able to bring community around the importance of Black fatherhood, to really speak to those. It was very impactful. Like, that conference was very impactful to be able to underline that. To your question with regards to managing mental health, it is admittedly challenging in order to navigate, because as a community influencer, you're expected to encourage the ones that you are supporting, that you're facilitating to, that you're mentoring, in order to practice self-care, to be able to look out for the resources that are there for mental health. There's also a stigma that we working within this community have, that you need to be all gas, no brakes when it comes to this work. While you advocate for mental health when you advocate for this work for other people, you are the one that needs to sacrifice in order to make sure that message is out there. And I know from firsthand experience that is not sustainable. I had a health scare last summer that put everything on pause and had reinforced that redlining and how dangerous that can ultimately be. So maintaining that mental health while doing this work is absolutely important. Understanding what your capacity is with regards to what you're able to provide to the work that you're doing, to the families that you support, to the communities that mean the most to you. That's really where that mental health and preserving that mental health and wellness comes into play. Like, we can always find like those tools that speak to us, whether it be spa days, whether it be like reading, whether it be going out to concerts or comedy shows, for example, and see what those nuances are. Yeah. The importance is intentionally taking that time to say, this is what I'm going to do to take care of my mental health in this moment. And also recognize those moments that need to be normalized before it becomes a crisis that you'll need to address at this point. It's no different than the way that we normalize working out and everything like that, and flexing whatever muscle, or normalizing the way that we study when we're in school, for example. Preserving mental health also needs to be a regular thing. And also being kind to ourselves when we end up falling off, and giving us that opportunity to say that we can find ways to take care of ourselves at another time, if right now is all hands on deck. So that's like the way that I usually approach that mental health perspective. It comes in different ways for me, and there's not like an easy like example that I can actually give, whether it's like playing video games or like going out on a drive and stuff like that. It comes in different ways, but it's making sure to take that intentional time to make sure that self-care is being practiced, whatever that looks like for you, as long as it's something that is bringing quality and joy for you and not harming you and everybody else, that's something that you want.
How can people get involved, support, and contribute to the work that you and your organization are doing?
So first off, if you want to be able to learn more about the ANKOBEA Fatherhood Initiative, we'd already put the information up. Dr. Vibe, thanks so much for allowing for this time. And again, Brother Kofi, always good to share space with y'all. The website is torontofathers.ca, TRONTO, fathers, all one word, .ca. You can reach out to me directly at sjohnson@torontofathers.ca as well. Our Instagram page is also at Toronto Fathers, all one word. So we are going to be starting to provide updates in terms of when our upcoming programs and events are coming up. For example, our virtual fatherhood talk session is going to be happening this Thursday. So you'll be able to get more information there with regards to that. And yeah, the best way is to be able to actually reach out to us via email or even by phone at 647-904-3479. So it's a matter of being able to get connected, and let's start the groundwork from there.
Okay, and then finally, what message would you like to leave for Black fathers who may be feeling marginalized or unsupported?
The message that I would want to leave for Black men and fathers who are feeling unsupported: you're seen, you are loved, you are necessary, and you need to know that there is a wide circle of people that are fighting on your behalf to make sure that you can continue to provide the best quality of life for your kids, for your family, and for your community. Continue to advocate for yourself. Continue to love and care for yourself in the ways that are healthy, because you are needed within this space. We need you. So please remember that you are always loved and you are always going to be necessary.
Brother Kofi, anything you want to add before we let this gentleman exit stage left?
3 words, brother. We need you. Powerful. We need you. We need you to continue to do the work. The S-Quire continue on this path and journey and empower all the work that's being done at the Black Fatherhood Initiative. Acknowledging something I wanted to touch on is MTC. Very simply, make the connection. This is this challenge of putting out to fathers. March break is coming up. There's some fathers who are connected to their children. Amazing. Maintain the connection. There's fathers that are not. Do something this week to make the connection to your children. For some people, it's been weeks. Some people, it's been months. Some people, it's been years. You know, some fathers who've been disconnected from their children for years. Make the connection. And if making the connection means creating an email address for your children or child and start sending emails to that address to document aspects of the journey, your own personal journey, but it's like almost writing letters to your children that can be utilized at a later time when you do reconnect. But in the interim, they can actually go back and look at these communications that you put out there if you don't have a direct connection to your children. But doing something this week that's uncomfortable but needed and necessary in your fathering, because you live with your children or you don't. MTC, make the connection, do what's needed, take the steps. And the last piece within that is make the connection with a support system. If it's a Black Fatherhood Initiative, if it's a Jima House, if it's one of the Jima Fathering Center, if it's connecting with us on our YouTube page, connect with Dr. Vibe, myself, Kofi Coach, connect with Insa Community, Brother Paul, making the connection this week in order to start to reestablish or start the process of reestablishing the relationship with your children and or maintaining the one that you already have. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening, tuning into tonight's show. Thank you again, Brother S-Quire, for continuing the journey. Dr. Vibes, you know what it is, always continuing, creating and holding this space for Black men here in Toronto, Canada, and beyond. Looking forward to continuing to create these spaces.
All right. Love Music Initiative says amazing chat. Thank you so much. S-Quire, do you have any final words?
Final words. Once again, I want to be able to share my appreciation to you both, Dr. Vibe and Kofi. 6 degrees of separation is a real thing. And especially within like the last several weeks, I've been realizing more and more that coincidences are false, that there's a reason why things happen when they do. So the fact alone that there are platforms like this that encourage Black men to engage and to talk about what's important, it's absolutely essential. So I just want to be able to share my appreciation for that. Thanks to all of you who have been engaged within this chat as well, those who are actually listening, those who have actually been actively within the chat. And yeah, looking forward to doing this again soon. There needs to be more of these opportunities. There needs to be more of these conversations, and the hope that we could actually keep this momentum going and make sure that that collective support is something that we can take forward with all of us within our respective ventures. So thank you once again for the time, and looking forward to doing this again.
Our pleasure. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're not making money, make history, but try to make both. And as always, make it better. Thank you so much.
Salute. It's a blessing.
Peace.
Peace.
All right, brother Kofi.
Yes.
What's coming up for you over the next week?
Oh my goodness. Well, as you guys know, of course, we're going into this March break space. So the journey continues relative to the Momentum Masterclass. We meet on Mondays. That's a space for to connect and support entrepreneurs on their journey from a holistic perspective. So for holistic entrepreneurs, definitely connect with me on YouTube at Kofi Coach. That's a significant space if you're looking to connect from a wellness perspective, but also from a holistic perspective. So looking forward to connecting with folks there. That's Mondays at 7 p.m. And you can definitely connect with Ankaden Drum and Dance Ensembles. You can connect with us on the Instagram for more information in terms of up and coming workshops relative to connecting and creating the connection between African drumming, dance, and culture, and how this space of movement and music can help in our journey of healing.
All right. So before we sign off, a few things. If you want to get in touch with Kofi Sadat, there's a lot of places you can get a hold of him, and its email is there, and Instagram is there, YouTube is there, Facebook is there. You can also get a hold of him at NASA Community on YouTube. NASA. Don't want to think American. NASA. Kofi Morris, you can get a hold of him, email and Instagram, and the wellness group. You got to give me your YouTube. You just mentioned it, so I got to get the YouTube information.
Kofi Coach, yeah. Kofi Coach on YouTube.
Send it to me. I just got to do like just send it to me. But I'm glad to hear that the YouTube is up. That's fantastic. Great news to hear. Myself, if you want to get hold of me, website thedrvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram, thedrvibeshow.com, X/Twitter, drvibeshow.com, email address dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. You can catch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and also the Dr. Vibe Show website and Paul Osborne Facebook and NASA on YouTube. I will end off with two interesting things. A lot of research shows that the more a father is engaged with his family and children, especially the children, the more potential for positive outcomes are for those child and children. And research shows, it was done a few years ago, and I'm sure they got to update the research, the most engaged fathers with their children, this research that was done in America a few years ago, are Black fathers, believe it or not. So we have to demolish stereotypes.
Each and every day.
So, as always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Again, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. Again, if you're not making money, make history, but try to do both and make it better. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith and walk good.
Time that our parents, they're like, I have nothing to teach you. I don't know nothing. And they know
That's
so much.
my dad's at that point now. It says
That's my point.
But I'm saying, no, Dad, you got lots more to give. You know how cold it is when these two brothers in their yard.
You know that. You know that. You don't know that, bro. You know
No
that.
joke. That's
I know we all have these things, but you know what? My go-to is this thing.
Wow.
black book. It's in the black.
Black
Black
book.
Men Talk, Black Book.